Have you ever done everything you were told to do? Work harder, stay disciplined, keep your head down, and still feel like your life isn't moving. You wake up tired, push through the day, collapse at night, and repeat it again. Weeks pass, then months, then years. Your effort is real, but the results feel strangely absent. And slowly, without meaning to, you start wondering if the problem isn't your situation at all, but you. This story isn't about laziness, lack of discipline, or giving up. It's about a quiet mistake that many hardworking people make without ever noticing it, one that keeps them busy, exhausted, and stuck. If you've ever felt like your effort isn't matching your progress, stay with this story until the end. What you're about to hear may change the way you think about work growth and the direction you've been running in. Daniel was 32 years old when he first began to sense that something wasn't right. On paper, his life looked stable, almost admirable. He had a steady job, paid his bills on time, and carried himself as someone responsible. He wasn't chasing shortcuts or dreaming of overnight success. He believed in earning his place slowly. Every weekday looked almost the same. He woke up early, commuted through traffic, and spent long hours doing work that demanded focus but rarely excitement. He handled tasks others avoided, fixed problems quietly, and stayed late without being asked. His coworkers trusted him. His managers relied on him. When something needed to be done properly, Daniel was the one they turned to. Outside of work, life was calm but narrow. Evenings were usually spent recovering from the day, simple meals, quiet rooms, screens glowing longer than he intended. Weekends were meant for rest, but they often became extensions of work. He told himself this was normal, temporary, a phase everyone went through before things opened up. Daniel didn't think of himself as unlucky or behind. He thought of himself as patient. He believed deeply in a simple idea he had never questioned: if you work hard enough, progress will come. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but eventually. That belief gave meaning to the tired mornings and long nights. It made sacrifice feel purposeful. He watched others move faster, but assumed their time would come with a cost. He believed slow growth was safer, more honest. He rarely asked whether he was heading in the right direction, only whether he was doing enough. And most days the answer was always the same: try harder. From the outside, Daniel looked like someone building a future. From the inside, there was a quiet unease he couldn't explain. Not panic, not despair. Just a subtle feeling that despite all the movement, his life wasn't actually going anywhere. And because everything around him said he was doing the right thing, Daniel never stopped to question the rule he was living by. For a long time, Daniel believed the answer was simple. When things didn't move, he pushed harder. If effort was the rule, then more effort had to be the solution. He didn't question the direction of his work, only the intensity. So he turned the volume up on everything. He arrived earlier than anyone else and left when the building was nearly empty. He took on extra responsibilities without being asked, fixing problems quietly so nothing ever broke badly enough to be noticed. When new projects appeared, Daniel raised his hand first. He told himself this was how trust was built. This was how progress happened. The first clear failure came during a promotion cycle he had been quietly preparing for. Daniel didn't expect guarantees, but he believed he had earned consideration. He had the longest hours, the cleanest record, the deepest familiarity with the work. When the decision was announced, the role went to someone else. It wasn't personal, they said. It was about fit. The person chosen was Mark, a colleague who had joined later, worked fewer hours, and seemed less consumed by the job. Mark wasn't careless, but he was selective. He asked questions Daniel never asked. He declined tasks Daniel automatically accepted. And somehow his work was more visible, more directional, more aligned with where the company said it was going. Daniel congratulated Mark sincerely. He meant it. But that night, the disappointment stayed with him. He replayed the year in his head, counting the weekends he had given up, the late nights he had normalized, the personal plans he had postponed. The math didn't make sense. So Daniel adjusted the only variable he trusted: effort. He enrolled in extra training, had on Under 5. He volunteered for cross-functional work. He made himself indispensable. His calendar filled, his energy drained, and still nothing shifted. The next opportunity passed him by. then another. Each time the explanation was vague. Timing, structure, direction. What hurt wasn't being overlooked. It was watching the same pattern repeat. Daniel began to notice something uncomfortable. The more reliable he became, the less his growth was discussed. His work was expected, not expanded. People depended on him to keep things running, not to move things forward. His consistency had turned into invisibility. Mark, meanwhile, was leading initiatives Daniel had once imagined himself stepping into. Not because Mark worked harder, but because Mark seemed to choose his effort carefully. Daniel told himself not to compare. Comparison felt small, but it was impossible not to notice the contrast. The next failure was quieter but deeper. A project Daniel had poured months into was quietly shelved. No feedback, no discussion, just a shift in priorities. The work wasn't wrong, it just didn't matter anymore. Daniel realized how often this had happened, how much of his energy had gone into work that didn't compound. That realization unsettled him. He started sacrificing more, hoping to force momentum. Rest felt irresponsible. Saying no felt dangerous. He delayed relationships, health, even simple joy, telling himself it was temporary. Growth required discomfort. That was the story he believed. But the discomfort never ended. Only the clarity did. Daniel began to internalize the failure. Maybe he wasn't strategic enough. Maybe he lacked instinct. Maybe others simply saw something he didn't. He questioned his intelligence, his value, his pace. He never questioned the frame he was operating inside. At night, exhaustion followed him into sleep. Mornings arrived too quickly. Work felt heavier, not because it was harder, but because it no longer promised anything. The effort kept flowing, but the direction felt blurred. Daniel felt like he was running on a treadmill set, just fast enough to keep him tired, but never fast enough to take him anywhere. Motion everywhere, progress nowhere. What confused him most wasn't that success hadn't arrived. It was that the rule he had lived by, work harder and things will move, no longer seemed true. And yet he didn't know what to replace it with. So he did the only thing he knew how to do. He kept going. And that quiet endurance, repeated day after day, pulled him closer to a point where effort stopped making sense. The breaking point didn't come with a loud collapse. It arrived quietly late one night when Daniel realized he was too tired to feel disappointed anymore. He sat alone, staring at unfinished work that suddenly felt meaningless. Not wrong, not difficult, just empty. For the first time, he didn't tell himself to push through. He didn't look for motivation. He simply felt the weight of repetition, days that looked the same, effort that led nowhere. A future that felt like an extension of exhaustion. The thought scared him because it felt calm. A question surfaced, slow and heavy. What if this never changes? He imagined years passing like this, working, sacrificing, waiting without movement. The idea hollowed him out. Not dramatic despair, but something colder, the loss of reason. If effort didn't lead anywhere, what was the point of continuing to give so much of himself? That night, Daniel didn't plan an escape. He didn't decide to quit. He just let one truth settle in. He couldn't keep living on effort alone. And for the first time, he stopped pretending that pushing harder would save him. A few days after that night, Daniel found himself in a place he didn't usually linger. A small workshop tucked behind an old building near his office. He had stopped by to fix something minor, nothing important. The man who owned the place was older, quiet, and slow in his movements. He had worked there for decades, repairing things most people had already given up on. They talked casually at first. Nothing personal, nothing heavy. But as Daniel waited, the exhaustion he had been carrying slipped out in a few simple sentences. He didn't complain. He didn't dramatize. He just said he felt tired of trying without moving. The old man listened. He didn't interrupt. When Daniel finished, he picked up a dull axe resting against the wall. "See this?" he said. "Strong arms won't help if the blade is blunt." He explained how people often swing harder when something doesn't work. They put more force behind each strike. They exhaust themselves. But if the blade is wrong, all that strength only wears them down faster. The wood doesn't split. The arms give out. Daniel watched as the man sharpened the edge slowly, almost gently. "Most people think effort is the problem," the man said. so they give more of it. But sometimes the real problem is where the effort is aimed. Daniel felt the weight of the words settle. The man wasn't talking about work alone. He was talking about direction. The old man didn't offer advice on what Daniel should change. He didn't tell him to quit or to try harder. He simply added one final thought. Before you swing again, he said, make sure you're not exhausting yourself with the wrong tool. Daniel left the workshop quieter than when he entered. Nothing in his life had changed yet, but something inside him had shifted. For the first time, he saw that his strength had never been the issue. He had been swinging faithfully, just not effectively. Daniel didn't wake up the next morning with a new plan. There was no sudden clarity, no list of goals taped to the wall. What changed first was not his schedule, but his attention. He began to notice how often he said yes without thinking, how many tasks he accepted simply because he could handle them, how much of his effort went into keeping things running rather than moving forward. For the first time, he allowed himself to pause before acting. Instead of asking, "Can I do this?" he started asking, "Should I?" At work, Daniel stopped volunteering for everything. Not out of rebellion, but out of intention. He chose fewer projects and paid closer attention to why they existed and where they led. Some work, he realized, demanded energy but offered no growth. Letting go of those tasks felt uncomfortable at first. It went against everything he believed about being responsible. But something unexpected happened. With fewer distractions, his focus sharpened. The work he kept mattered more. It connected. It built on itself. Outside of work, Daniel made smaller changes. He stopped treating exhaustion as a badge of honor. He rested without guilt. He allowed space for reflection even when it felt unproductive. In that quiet space, patterns became clearer. He began to understand what he was naturally good at and what he had only been forcing through discipline. Progress still came slowly. There were no immediate rewards. Some days felt no different than before, but the constant pressure eased. For the first time in years, Daniel felt oriented, like he was walking in a direction that made sense, even if the distance was still long. He wasn't trying to be the hardest worker in the room anymore. He wasn't trying to outlast everyone else. He was learning to place his effort where it could actually grow. Daniel realized something important during this time. Growth didn't require being the smartest or the most disciplined person. It required understanding how you learn, how you work, and where your strengths quietly fit. His life didn't transform overnight, but it stopped feeling pointless. And that alone changed everything. Daniel's story isn't really about Daniel. It's about a pattern that quietly traps millions of people who are doing their best. People who wake up early, stay disciplined, and keep going even when it hurts. People who don't complain. People who believe effort is always the answer. The mistake isn't working hard. The mistake is believing that hard work automatically creates progress. Effort is powerful, but it isn't directional by default. Without alignment, effort becomes repetition. You can give more time, more energy, more sacrifice, and still remain in the same place. Not because you're incapable, but because you're pushing inside a frame that doesn't move. We're rarely taught to question this. Society rewards endurance. It praises those who suffer quietly and keep going. But endurance without clarity doesn't build a future, it maintains the present. It keeps systems running, but it doesn't move people forward. Progress begins when effort is paired with direction, when your work connects to your strengths, when your learning compounds instead of resets, when your energy flows towards something that fits who you are, not just what you've been told to do. This is the shift Daniel made. And it's the same shift many people never allow themselves to consider. Not less effort, not more effort, better direction. If this story feels uncomfortably familiar, it's likely because you've been living it in your own way. You show up. You stay disciplined. You keep going even when no one is watching. And yet somewhere inside there's a quiet question you've been avoiding. So instead of asking yourself how to work harder, pause and ask something different. What is all this effort actually pointed toward? If nothing changed for the next 5 years, same work, same pace, same rewards, would this still feel worth it? Are you choosing this path because it fits you, or because you've already invested too much to stop? Are you growing or just enduring? These aren't questions meant to scare you. They're meant to give you back something you may have lost along the way: clarity. Because clarity does what motivation cannot. It tells you where to place your strength instead of asking you to create more of it. You don't need to quit everything. You don't need to start over. And you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Sometimes the bravest move isn't pushing forward. It's adjusting your direction before exhaustion becomes your only evidence of commitment. Quiet strength isn't about suffering longer. It's about knowing where your effort belongs. If this story gave you words for something you've been feeling but couldn't explain, you're not alone. Many people mistake exhaustion for progress because no one ever taught them to question direction. But strength isn't proven by how much you can endure. It's revealed by where you choose to place your effort. If this resonated with you, take a moment to sit with it. You don't need answers today. Awareness is already a beginning. If you feel comfortable, share in the comments what you've been working hard at and whether it still feels aligned with the life you want to build. Sometimes saying it out loud is the first real shift. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, stories about growth, clarity, and quiet strength, consider subscribing. New stories are shared regularly. Because real progress doesn't start with pushing harder. It starts with knowing where you're going